Tales Under the New Moon, the first of many festivals. Wuklamat, vow of resolve and dawn servant of Tuliolal, looked upon the splendor that was the nation's capital, a many-hued tapestry of lives and cultures that unfurled before her. In the evening light, the colors grew even more vibrant, as all manner of people flowed through the city streets, the lifeblood of our nation. And in recent days, their community had grown even larger, as returnees from Iyasulani gradually made their way back home, finally free of the mysterious dome which had severed them from the outside world's temporal flow. For 30 years, they had abided in the realm of Alexandria and grown accustomed to its radically different way of life, only to emerge and find Tural exactly as it had been when they left, and themselves 30 years older than their kin. Though the returnees were in many ways strangers to Tural, Wuklamat was wholly committed to helping them retake their place in Turali society, and she had devised several plans to facilitate this process with the aid of her brother. One involved the staging of a hunting festival in the city. The previous dawn servant, Golu Jaja, had been especially fond of such events, and it would provide an excellent opportunity for the people to enjoy themselves and each other's company. How old was I when I first took part? 16? Ah, but there was that one time I snuck out as a cub, with Papa none the wiser. She chuckled to herself as she closed her eyes and cast her mind back to that day's misadventure. Had it been 14 years already? The several dozen participants milling about the winged walk wore expressions that bespoke nervousness and eagerness in equal measure. The tension broke when the dawn servant at last appeared upon the balcony, addressing them with a booming voice that all knew at once belonged to the head of resolve. "I salute you, brave warriors, and thank you for coming. But before the festivities commence, I must remind you that this is not just a celebration of martial prowess. This day we hunt not to take the life of our prey, but to acknowledge our place within nature's design and give thanks for the bounty of Tural." Their hearts swelled with passion and pride as they listened to the dawn servant's words, and each and every one stood a little bit straighter. The head of reason proceeded to outline the rules of the competition, his measured tones ensuring no part was misunderstood. Beasts would be released into the city from the Arch of the Dawn, and participants would be tasked with slaying them within the allotted time. The one who laid low the largest specimen would be crowned the victor and granted a boon of their own choosing. So great was this honor that one would surely be proclaimed a hero to their people, like the Sebral Hunmu Rook, a former champion who had returned to his village with a priceless greatbow from the palace's own treasure vault. As Golu Jaja concluded his opening remarks, the drummers began to play, and the participants raised their voices in approval, surging forward and flowing out into the streets, a wave breaking upon the rocks, their joy and energy revitalizing the city. The head of resolve grunted in approval. Many villages sent their best for this one. Will our son acquit himself well against such formidable competition, I wonder? The head of reason seemed bemused by his brother's question. You needn't worry about Zoralja. 13 he may be, but a warrior grown he has proven himself already. If he hadn't, you would never have consented to his taking part. Those unfamiliar with blessed siblings might have been confused to witness their exchange, but despite sharing the same body, each head was a separate and distinct individual. The head of resolve listened to the words of the one he trusted more than any other and nodded in concession. At that moment, a breathless man of the Landsguard came running, his face a picture of panic. "Apologies, dawn servant, but the third promise, Wuklamat, has escaped from her room and is nowhere to be found. The door was locked and sentries posted just as you instructed, head of reason, but even with these precautions, she somehow—" The head of resolve's boisterous laughter cut short the man's report. "Bwahaha! So eager to see the festival that she couldn't abide her confinement, no doubt. With such an insatiable curiosity, she is sure to surprise us in the years to come." At this, the head of reason could only sigh, though he knew his brother spoke true. And indeed, Wuklamat would not be denied a front-row view of the festivities. I had to be there, in the thick of it. She soon made her way to Bayside Bevy, darting from shop to shop to avoid discovery, before pausing briefly in the shadow of a pile of cargo, straining to listen to the sounds of nearby activity. Forbidden from taking part, she had nevertheless yearned to experience the excitement firsthand. Overcome with anticipation of the battles she imagined she would shortly witness, her pulse quickened in time with the beat of the distant drums. "This is no place for kids like you." The disapproving Yasulani drawl was so close she could feel the breath on her neck. Wuklemat leaped out of hiding and whirled to find a figure shrouded in a large cloak with dark wavy hair that shimmered like the sea at dusk. The tall ears and glittering almond eyes were striking to behold. It was the first time she had ever seen a Shatona girl in the flesh. "Hey, you're a kid too. If you're so scared, then you should go hide in Sunperch." She was disappointed to find the older girl wholly unmoved by her words. "That I can't do. I came all the way from Yasulani for the festival. The palace is too far from the action. I want to see it up close, be in the thick of it." Hearing her own sentiments echoed, Wuklemat couldn't help but grin. "Me too. Say, why don't we—" But before she could extend her invitation, they were interrupted by the arrival of one of the beasts set loose for the festival. An avian creature that approached them slowly with uncertain intent. Wuklemat gestured to it with her head. "What is that?" Coolly eyeing the beast, the Shatona girl replied. "A tucalibri, fond of fragrant flowers, normally harmless, but keep your distance. If we antagonize it, it'll use that huge beak to defend itself, attacking anything and everything it sees." The young Wuklemat didn't catch everything the older girl was saying, but she understood that this was a formidable foe, and her heart began to beat faster. Just then, the tucalibri let out a shrill and distinctly antagonized cry. Spying a small hand axe that was leaning against a nearby crate, Wuklemat seized the weapon and raised it aloft. "Don't worry, I'll protect you." Heroic proclamation thus issued, she charged the beast. Hers was not a martial technique honed with years of physical and mental training, but the sum total of a child's unbridled ferocity. Thus did Wuklemat bring the axe crashing down, channeling her tremendous might into a single devastating blow. Sparks flew from the blade as it clanged against the cobbles, a hair's breadth shy of the beast's head. While utterly ineffective as an attack, the sound and fury was enough to startle the tucalibri, which promptly took wing and fled. "Victory," she thought, before falling to her knees, spent. Her heart was pounding louder than the dawn herald, her whole body shaking from the thrill of her first battle, and then the fear she had somehow beaten back returned in full force. That could have ended very, very badly. She looked up to see the Shatona girl beside her, holding out her hand. "Not bad for a kid your size. Still, we shouldn't stick around. Let's head to the palace before something worse shows up." Once she had helped Wuklemat to her feet, the two began walking in silence. The shadows receded as the sun climbed higher in the sky, and they remained vigilant for the faintest sign of movement as they trudged up the steep path. A short while later, the stairs leading to Sunperch came into view, and they both breathed a sigh of relief. A brief reprieve that was shattered by the sound of thunderous footfalls. The Shatona girl looked back, her eyes widening in apparent disbelief. "A mane like a Far Eastern horse? Tusks like spears? That's a Zagnal! What were they thinking?" Even if Wuklemat hadn't heard the fear in the older girl's voice, it was plain that this beast was a far greater threat than the bird had been. She brandished her axe reflexively, gripping the handle tightly with both hands. "Don't be stupid," her companion hissed. "This isn't a tucalibri. Even a party of hunters would struggle to kill it. Our only chance is to run." But Wuklemat would not be deterred. Placing herself between the Shatona girl and the gargantuan monstrosity, she barked her reply. "I know, I'll keep it busy. Buy you some time." They had only just met, yet she would risk her life to save the older girl. Though others might question the logic of her choice, to Wuklemat it was no choice at all. Why wouldn't I? By the same token, the Shatona girl did not waver in her own decision, even as her trembling legs betrayed her crippling fear. "No, my mother taught me that naturalists heed their instincts, and she would never forgive me if I left you, even if you are too heroic for your own good." Alas, the Zagnal could not comprehend such noble sentiments, nor cared to try. Scraping its hooves and crouching slightly, it readied itself to charge, when a stone came whistling through the air and struck it squarely between the eyes. "Run, Lamachi, run!" The Zagnal cast about for the source of the offending object. Its gaze fell upon the Hetzaro youth atop the stairs, and the leather slingshot in his hand. "Kona!" Wuklamat seized the Shitona girl's hand and sprinted to join her brother. Kona loosed a second and third stone, peppering the beast with well-placed but meaningless blows. Shrugging off this distraction, the Zagnal bellowed in rage and barreled towards the two girls. "It's going to catch us!" The Shitona girl's panicked cry was enough to rekindle Wuklamat's courage. Once more she resolved to ensure that at least one of them survived. Slowing her steps just shy of the stairs, the child pivoted and broke away, and the Zagnal followed. She heard the older girl's angry, pleading voice, but ran on, sparing her not so much as a glance. I had to give her as much time as I could. As it turned out, however, Wuklamat's valiant attempt would amount to little, for she tripped before she had taken half a dozen steps and landed in a heap on the ground. Knowing the Zagnal was nearly upon her, Wuklamat shut her eyes and braced for the end. Yet as the long moments passed, she realized she was still breathing. Opening her eyes a crack, she spied a hulking, motionless mass through the legs of her towering Mamulja, who stood with his blue-scaled back to her, bloodied sword in hand. Only one man had ever inherited both the stout frame of the Hubigo and the blue scales of the Buniwa, the first promise of Tuliolal, Zoralja. The true-born son of Gululjaja, a bond Kona and I could only dream of. On this day he had earned yet another accolade as the youngest ever to participate in a hunting festival, and in felling the Zagnal with a single thrust had demonstrated his worthiness of the honor, saving his step-siblings and their friend in so doing. "So this is where you ran off to. Kona, take your sister home, now." And thus did Wuklamat's adventure come to an end, as did the hunting festival not long after. Zoralja was the undisputed victor, and for his prize he claimed a second sword, that he might follow in their father's footsteps and master the viper's art. To not only participate in the hunting festival at the age of 13, but also win it was a scarce credible feat. Zoralja's legend was born, as Turali far and wide declared him the resilient son, a testament to his miraculous conception and birth, who would surely succeed his father as dawn servant when the time came. But Zoralja did not become a hero only to the common man that day. Wuklamat and Kona cheered for their brother as loudly as any, and never forgot how he had come to their rescue. "Did you even hear a word I said?" The spell broken, Wuklamat opened her eyes and saw Ernville giving her the quizzical look she had seen more times than she could count. "Remind me, who asked that I come and select the beasts for your hunting festival?" That old familiar grumbling. Sorry, I was just thinking back to the one where we met, the one Zoralja won." "Oh." He looked away, eyes narrowing as he reflected on the memory, on a broken promise or perhaps kept, to his mother and their shared misadventure. "You were so beautiful, I mistook you for a girl." "Well, technically speaking, you weren't wrong." It was not widely known that male and female Shitona were indistinguishable from one another until the age of 13. As they were long-lived and few in number, outsiders rarely chanced to encounter a Shitona adolescent. "Still, you really surprised me, and not for the last time either. Truly, I couldn't have asked for a better childhood friend." She felt the smirk creep across her lips before she spoke the dreaded words, and sure enough, Ernville rolled his eyes in response, but failed to conceal a faint smile of his own. That old familiar exchange. "Long-standing acquaintance, thank you very much. Now then, I believe we have a festival to arrange." The time for old memories had passed, as thoughts turned to the making of new ones. Together the pair made their way along the cobbled streets through which they had once run, side by side. Thank you for listening to Tales Under the New Moon, the first of many festivals.